The passage is barely wider than your shoulders. Brick walls rise on both sides, close enough to touch without stretching. Above, the sky is a narrow strip. Light enters but never reaches the ground. The floor stays in permanent shadow. The air does not move here. It sits heavy, slightly sweet, already breathed. Each inhale feels borrowed from someone else. In this video, I used AI to reconstruct the Rookeries of Victorian London. Every detail is based on historical records and sanitary reports. This is St Giles. The word rookery comes from here. Buildings stacked like nests, dark and overcrowded. Some courts held 300 people per acre. Wealthy London averaged 50. Moisture clings to the walls. Water beads on brick like sweat. Nothing dries. Walk deeper. The smell thickens. Move east towards St Giles. 7 streets converge on a single point. The buildings lean inward. The sky shrinks further. Traffic cannot pass cleanly through. Carts slow, fold back, overlap. People compress into the gaps between wheels and walls. Windows are open, but nothing changes. The smell does not escape. It layers: damp fabric, old food, human waste, smoke. Not one smell, but many. Stacked and fermenting. You learn to breathe shallow here. Deep breaths feel wrong. Victorian reformers believed foul air itself caused disease. They called it miasma, invisible poison rising from filth. If air could not circulate, sickness would settle and spread. Stand at the center of the junction and look outward. You cannot see more than 30 yards in any direction. Each street bends out of sight. Hawkers position themselves where foot traffic hesitates. Boot repair, needle and thread, hot eels in a bucket. The corner matters more than the shop. Watch how people move. Locals cut diagonals, slicing through gaps. Newcomers walk straight and stall. A woman pushes past with a basket on her hip. A man presses flat against the wall to let a barrow through. No one stops. Stopping costs space. This is not chaos. It is a compressed system. The street teaches you where to stand, when to move, how to breathe inside very little room. The air you struggled to breathe outside does not improve once you step indoors. In these buildings, shelter and hazard are the same thing. The staircase is narrow and steep, worn smooth by constant use. Each step tilts slightly toward the center, shaped by thousands of feet before yours. Rooms are stacked one above another with no opposing windows, no route for air to pass through. Heat rises and stays. Breath accumulates. By morning, the walls feel wet to the touch. Moisture beads on plaster. Bedding folded at night is still damp when unfolded again. In Old Nicole, houses press so tightly together that windows open onto brick only a few feet away. Light enters briefly, then disappears. Several families share a single room. Beds are rented in shifts, 2p for 8 hours, shared with a stranger. They called them hot beds. The mattress never cools. South of the river, cellar rooms sit below street level. Rainwater seeps through brickwork and collects at the edges of the floor. Wood swells and softens underfoot. The smell of rot rises from below. Mattresses absorb moisture night after night. Open a window and the air outside is already heavy, already used. Sometimes it drifts in from the next building, carrying the same breath back. Look down. The ground never fully dries here. Mud holds its shape because it is mixed with more than rain. Beneath most houses sit cesspools, brick-lined pits collecting human waste. When they overflow, the excess seeps through foundations and into courtyards. Night soil men empty the pits after dark, carrying the load through streets in open buckets. The smell announces their route hours before and after. Shallow channels cut along the edges of walls, guiding liquid waste toward the nearest low point. In these courts, that point is often a doorway. Those with shoes walk carefully, placing each step flat to avoid splash. Leather darkens quickly, stitching loosens. Damp creeps upward into wool and skin. Everything flows downhill toward the Thames. The same river supplies drinking water to much of the city. Intake pipes sit meters from sewer outlets. Rain changes nothing. It loosens what has settled and spreads it further, into cellars, across thresholds, up against walls where it dries and returns. The street does not hide waste. It stores it, redistributes it, and presses it back into the body with every step, every breath, every swallow. Market stalls near Spitalfields are wooden planks on trestles. No ice, no cover. Fish lie flat on bare wood, scales drying in open air. Beneath the stalls, the ground is layered. Fish guts, cabbage leaves, crushed fruit, straw pressed into mud. Dogs wait at the edges. Meat hangs from iron hooks in the open. No glass, no curtain. Cuts darken through the day. Flies cluster where blood pools at the bottom. Vegetables sit in wicker baskets on the ground, bruised ones at the front, earth still clinging to the roots. Nothing is washed before sale. The stall surfaces are stained dark from years of use. Wood grain has lifted and split. Juices settle into the cracks and dry there. Old newspapers are stacked at the corner of each stall for wrapping. The ink fades where grease has soaked through from yesterday's use. In lodging rooms, food sits where space allows. Window ledges, floors, beside mattresses. No table, no separation from the rest of life. Bread is stored against the wall. Damp reaches it before mold does. Crusts soften, then harden again. The inside stays edible longer than the outside. Cooking pots sit near shared hearths, blackened and dented. Grease coats the rim. The iron has not been scrubbed in years. The fire does the cleaning. In courts off Whitechapel, the sound of coughing is constant. It echoes off brick, mixes with voices, becomes part of the air. Walls near doorways are stained at chest height. Dark streaks of spit, repeated over years. No one scrubs it. The brick absorbs and dries. Rags hang from window frames, damp and gray. Some are stained brown or yellow. They dry slowly in air that holds moisture like fabric. Small glass bottles line window ledges. Camphor, gin tonics, vinegar rubs. No labels. Corks sit loose. Some are empty, never thrown away. Bedding is visible through open doors. Straw mattresses sag in the middle. Sheets are gray, patched, never fully dry. The smell reaches the street. Chamber pots sit in corners, chipped enamel, half covered with cloth. The contents wait hours before being emptied into the court below. The floors are worn smooth near beds, paths traced by repetition. To the window, to the pot, to the door. The wood remembers the routine. On steps outside, people rest between tasks, not sitting, just pausing. Bodies lean against walls, absorbing the cold brick, then move again. There is no separation between sick space and living space. The room holds both. The street holds both. The air makes no distinction. Walk far enough and the city shifts. Paving stones sit level. Gutters run clear. Windows reflect light instead of holding damp. The distance is not far. A few streets separate the Rookeries from squares where air moves freely and brick stays dry. The contrast is not geography, it is infrastructure. Drains here connect. Water flows away. Streets are swept. The difference is built, not earned. Victorian London knew these places existed. Inspectors visited. Reports were filed. Maps were drawn with boundaries marking where conditions changed. Reform arrived slowly and not as rescue. Streets were cleared. Buildings torn down. People displaced. The problem was removed, not solved. What you have seen still sits beneath the surface of modern London. Buried, paved over, forgotten. The city moved forward by learning not to look back.